Hi there. We are on day 181 of Through the Bible in 1 Year. We are like halfway through. So, like tomorrow or Monday, it'll be at the exact halfway point, July 1st. So that's cool. Today we are reading 5 chapters in 2nd Chronicles. So, and that's it. Right? We have to change Bibles. We were using the Holman Christian Standard Bible, just because it's a good translation. Okay. Jehu's rebuke of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, returned to his home in Jerusalem in peace. Then Jehu, son of Hanani, the seer, went out to confront him and said to King Jehoshaphat, "Do you help the wicked and love those who hate the Lord? Because of this, the Lord's wrath is on you. However, some good is found in you, for you have removed the Asherah poles from the land and have decided to seek God." Jehoshaphat's reforms. Jehoshaphat lived in Jerusalem, and once again he went out among the people from Beersheba to the hill country of Ephraim and brought them back to Yahweh, the God of their ancestors. He appointed judges in all the fortified cities in the land of Judah, city by city. Then he said to the judges, "Consider what you are doing, for you do not judge for man, but for the Lord, who is with you in the matter of judgment. And now may the terror of the Lord be on you. Watch what you do, for there is no injustice or partiality or taking bribes with the Lord our God." All right. Yeah. I almost said something. Jehoshaphat also appointed in Jerusalem some of the Levites and priests and some of the heads of the Israelite families for deciding the Lord's will and for settling disputes of the residents of Jerusalem. He commanded them, saying, "In the fear of the Lord with integrity and with your whole heart, you are to do the following. For every dispute that comes to you from your brothers who dwell in your cities, whether it regards differences of blood, guilt, law, commandment, statutes, or judgments, you are to warn them so they will not incur guilt before the Lord, and wrath will not come on you and your brothers. Do this, and you will not incur guilt." Note that Amariah, the chief priest, is over you in all matters related to the Lord, and Zebediah, son of Ishmael, the ruler of the house of Judah, in all matters related to the king, and the Levites are officers in your presence. Be strong, may the Lord be with those who do what is good. Okay, chapter 20. Wars, more wars. After this, the Moabites and Ammonites, together with some of the came to fight against Jehoshaphat. People came and told Jehoshaphat, "A vast number from beyond the Dead Sea and from Edom has come to fight against you. They are already in Hazazon Tamar," that is, whatever that place is. Jehoshaphat was afraid, and he resolved to seek the Lord. Then he proclaimed a fast for all Judah who gathered to seek the Lord. They even came from all the cities of Judah to seek him. Jehoshaphat's prayer. And Jehoshaphat stood in the assembly of Judah in Jerusalem in the Lord's temple before the new courtyard. He said, "Yahweh, the God of our ancestors, are you not the God who is in heaven? And do you not rule over all the kingdoms and the nations? Power and might are in your hand, and no one can stand against you. Are you not our God, who drove out the inhabitants of this land before your people Israel, and who gave it forever to the descendants of Abraham, your friend? They have lived in the land and have built you a sanctuary in it for your name, and have said, if disaster comes on us, sword and judgment, pestilence and famine, we will stand before this temple and before you, for your name is in this temple. We will cry out to you because of our distress, and you will hear and deliver. Now here are the Ammonites, Moabites, inhabitants of Mount Seir. You did not let Israel invade them when Israel came out of the land of Egypt, but Israel turned away from them and did not destroy them. Look how they repay us by coming to drive us out of your possession that you gave us as an inheritance. Our God, will you not judge them? For we are powerless before this vast number that comes to fight against us. We do not know what to do, but we look to you." God's answer. All Judah was standing before the Lord with their infants, their wives, and their children. In the middle of the congregation, the Spirit of the Lord came on Jahaziel, son of all these people. Good night. Look at all that genealogy. And he said, listen carefully, all Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem, King Jehoshaphat. This is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of this vast number, for the battle is not yours but God's. Tomorrow, go down against them. You will see them coming up from ascent of Ziz, and you will find them at the end of the valley facing the wilderness of Jerusalem. You do not have to fight this battle. Position yourself, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord. He is with you. Judah and Jerusalem, do not be afraid or discouraged. Tomorrow go out and face them, for Yahweh is with you. Then Jehoshaphat bowed his face to the ground, and all Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem fell down before the Lord to worship him. Then the Levites from the sons of these people stood up to praise the Lord God of Israel, shouting with a loud voice, victory and plunder. In the morning they got up early and went out to the wilderness of Tekoa. As they were about to go out, Jehoshaphat stood and said, Hear me, Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in Yahweh your God, and you will be established. Believe in his prophets, and you will succeed. Then he consulted with the people and appointed some to sing for the Lord and some to praise the splendor of his holiness. When they went out in front of the armed forces, they kept singing, Give thanks to the Lord, for his faithful love endures forever. Right. Michael W. Smith sang that song too. The moment they began their shouts and praises, the Lord sent an ambush against the Ammonites, Moabites, and the inhabitants of Mount Seir, who came to fight against Judah, and they were defeated. The Ammonites and Moabites turned against the inhabitants of Mount Seir and completely annihilated them. When they had finished with the inhabitants of Seir, they helped destroy each other. When Judah came to a place overlooking the wilderness, they looked for a large army, but there were only corpses lying on the ground. Nobody had escaped. Then Jehoshaphat and his people went to gather their plunder. They found among them an abundance of goods on the bodies and valuable items, so they stripped them until nobody could carry any more. They were gathering the plunder for 3 days because there was so much. They assembled in the valley of Barak on the 4th day, for there they praised the Lord. Therefore the place is still called the valley of Barakah today. Then all the men of Judah and Jerusalem turned back with Jehoshaphat their leader, returning joyfully to Jerusalem, for the Lord enabled them to rejoice over their enemies. So they came into Jerusalem to the Lord's temple with harps, lyres, and trumpets. The terror of God was on all the kingdoms of the lands when they heard that Yahweh had fought against the enemies of Israel. Then Jehoshaphat's kingdom was quiet, for his God gave him rest on every side. Summary. Jehoshaphat became king over Judah. He was 35 years old when he became king and reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Azubah, daughter was Shili. He walked the way of Asa his father. He did not turn away from it, but did what was right in the Lord's sight. However, the high places were not taken away. The people had not yet set their hearts on God and on the God of their ancestors. The rest of the events of Jehoshaphat's reign, from beginning to end, are written in the events of Jehu son of Hanani, which is recorded in the book of Israel's kings. Okay, Jehoshaphat's fleet of ships. After this, Judah's king Jehoshaphat made an alliance with Israel's king Ahaziah, who was guilty of wrongdoing. Jehoshaphat formed an alliance with him to make his ships go to Tarshish, and they made the ships in Ezion-Geber. And then Eleazar, son of prophesied against Jehoshaphat, saying, Because you formed an alliance with Ahaziah, the Lord has broken up what you have made. So the ships were wrecked and were not able to go to Tarshish. Okay. 21. Jehoshaphat rested with his father and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. His son Jehoram became king in his place. He had brothers, sons of Jehoshaphat, and all these sons of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. Their father had given them many gifts of silver, gold, and valuable things, along with fortified cities in Judah. But he gave the kingdom to Jehoram, because he was the firstborn. When Jehoram had established himself over his father's kingdom, he strengthened his position by killing with the sword all his brothers, as well as some of the princes of Israel. Wow. That's just mean. Oh, that affects me, I know. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king and reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done, for Ahab's daughter was his wife. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight because of the covenant the Lord had made with David. He was unwilling to destroy the house of David, since the Lord had promised to give a lamp to David and to his sons forever. During Jehoram's reign, Edom rebelled against Judah's domination and appointed their own king. So Jehoram crossed into Edom with his commanders and all his chariots. Then at night he set out to attack the Edomites who had surrounded him and the chariot commanders. And now Edom is still in rebellion against Judah's domination today. Libnah also rebelled at that time against his domination because he had abandoned Yahweh, the God of his ancestors. Jehoram also built high places in the hills of Judah and caused the inhabitants of Jerusalem to prostitute themselves, and he led Judah astray. Well, yeah, first he kills all his brothers. That's just disgusting. Then a letter came to Jehoram from Elijah the prophet, saying, "This is what Yahweh, the God of your ancestor David, says, because you have not walked in the ways of your father Jehoshaphat or in the ways of Asa, king of Judah, but have walked in the way of the kings of Israel, have caused Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to prostitute themselves, like the house of Ahab prostituted itself, and also have killed your brothers, your father's family, who were better than you. Yahweh is now about to strike your people, your sons, your wives, and all your possessions with a horrible affliction. You yourself will be struck with many illnesses, including the disease of the intestines, until your intestines come out day after day because of the disease." Ooh. You don't want to make God mad, right? Jehoram's last days. The Lord put it into the mind of the Philistines and the Arabs who lived near the Cushites to attack Jehoram. So they went to war against Judah and invaded it. They carried off all the possessions found in the king's palace, and also his sons and wives. Not a son was left to him except Jehu, his youngest son. After all these things, the Lord afflicted him in his intestines with an incurable disease. This continued day after day until 2 full years passed, and then his intestines came out because of his disease, and he died from severe illnesses. Wow. But people did not hold a fire in his honor like the fire in honor of his fathers. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king and reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He died to no one's regret and was buried in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings. Wow. Judah's king Ahaziah. Then the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king in his place, because the troops had come with the Arabs to the camp and had killed all the older sons. So Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, became king of Judah. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king and reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was that, granddaughter of Omri. I'm not saying those names. I can't, so I'm just not going to. He walked in the way of the house of Ahab, for his mother gave him evil advice. So he did what was evil in the Lord's sight, like the house of Ahab, for they were his advisers after the death of his father to his destruction. He also followed their advice and went with Joram, son of Israel's king Ahab, to fight against Hazael, king of Aram, blah, 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 wounded Joram. So he returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds they inflicted on him in Ramoth Gilead. When he fought against Aram's king Hazael, then Judah's king Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, went down to Jezreel to visit Joram, son of Ahab, since Joram was ill. Ahaziah's downfall came from God when he went to Joram. When Ahaziah arrived, he went out with Joram to meet Jehu of Nimshi, whom the Lord had anointed to destroy the house of Ahab. So when Jehu executed judgment on the house of Ahab, he found the rulers of Judah and the sons of Ahaziah's brothers who were serving Ahaziah, and he killed them. Yeah. Then Jehu looked for Ahaziah, and Jehu's soldiers captured him. He was hiding in Samaria. So they brought Ahaziah to Jehu, and they killed him. Well, soldiers buried him before they said, "He is the grandson of Jehoshaphat, who sought the Lord with all his heart." So no one from the house of Ahaziah had the strength to rule the kingdom. There you go. Athaliah usurps the throne. When Athaliah, Ahaziah's mother, saw that her son was dead, she proceeded to annihilate all the royal heirs of the house of Judah. Man, these people are wicked. Man, that makes me sick. Jehoshabeath, the king's daughter, rescued Joash, son of Ahaziah, from the king's sons who were being killed, and put him and the one who nursed him in a bedroom. Now that person was the daughter of King Jehoram and the wife of Jehoiada, the priest. since she was Ahaziah's sister, she hid Joash from Athaliah so that she did not kill him. When Athaliah ruled over the land, he was hiding with them in God's temple 6 years. Athaliah overthrown. Then in the 7th year, Jehoiada summoned his courage and took the commanders of hundreds into a covenant with him. Azariah, son of Jehoram, Ishmael, son of blah, 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 all these sons and daughters and daughters and sons and daughters, son of Zikri. They made a circuit throughout Judah. They gathered the Levites from all the cities of Judah at the heads of the family of Israel, and they came to Jerusalem. The whole assembly made the covenant with the king of God's temple. Jehoiada said to them, "Here is the king's son. He must reign, just as the Lord promised concerning David's son. This is what you are to do. A third of you priests and Levites who are coming on duty on the Sabbath are to be gatekeepers. A third are to be at the king's palace, and a third to be at the foundation gate. And all the troops will be in the courtyards of the Lord's temple. No one is to enter the Lord's temple but the priests and the Levites who serve. They may enter because they are holy, but all the people are to obey the requirement of the Lord. You must completely surround the king with weapons in hand. Anyone who enters the temple is to be put to death. You must be with the king in all his daily tasks." All right. So the commanders of hundreds did everything Jehoiada the priest commanded. They each brought their men, those coming to duty on the Sabbath and those going off duty on the Sabbath. For Jehoiada the priest did not release the division. Jehoiada the priest gave to the commanders of hundreds King David's spears, shields, quivers that were in God's temple. Then he stationed all the troops with their weapons in hand, surrounding the king from the right side of the temple to the left side by the altar and by the temple. I'm getting tired. They brought out the king's son, put the crown on him, and gave him the testimony, and made him king. Jehoiada and his sons anointed him and cried along with the king. When Athaliah heard the noise from the troops, the guards, and those praising the king, she went to the troops in the Lord's temple. As she looked, there was a king standing by his pillar. At the entrance, the commanders of the trumpeters were by the king, and all the people of the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets, while the singers with musical instruments were leading the praise. Athaliah tore her clothes and screamed, "Treason, treason." And Jehoiada the priest sent out the commanders of hundreds, those in charge of the army, saying, Take her between the ranks, and put anyone who follows her to death by the sword. For the priests had said, "Don't put her to death in the Lord's temple." So they arrested her. She was sent by the entrance to the horses' gates of the king's palace, where they put her to death. She deserved it. What a horrible, horrible, evil, wicked person. Jehoiada's reforms. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between himself, the king, and the people, that they would be the Lord's people. So all the people went to the temple of Baal and tore it down. They broke its altars and images into pieces and killed Matan, the priest of Baal, at the altars. Then Jehoiada put the oversight of the Lord's temple into the hands of the Levitical priest, whom David had appointed over the Lord's temple, to offer burnt offerings to the Lord, as it is written in the law of Moses, with rejoicing song ordained by David. He stationed gatekeepers at the gates of the Lord's temple, and so that nothing unclean would enter for any reason. Then he took with him the commanders of hundreds, and the nobles, the governors, and the people, and all the people of the land brought the king down from the Lord's temple. They entered the king's palace through the upper gate, and seated the king on the throne of the kingdom. All the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet, for they had put Athaliah to death by the sword. There you go. That's today. That was a lot of names. You notice I'm not very good reading these names. What are you doing tomorrow? Oh, look, more Psalms. And Obadiah 1. Obadiah 1. Okay. Obadiah 1. And Psalms 82, 83 tomorrow. So, there you have it. That's day 181. 81? Yeah, 81. So we'll keep doing that. I may do another New Testament study later. I'm not sure yet, but look out for that. If you subscribe and follow, get notified, when I get new stuff. So, but until then, we'll keep doing this. Okay, it's day 181. We're going through the kings, and we'll get through them all, even though I can't say the names, and I just don't want to try because I absolutely butcher them. But if you can say them, good for you. So, till tomorrow, we'll do it again. See you later.